you. Welcome everyone to the Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel meeting. On behalf of the panel, I'd like to recognise the traditional custodians of the land, the Ku-ring-gai people, on whose land we meet. Now, in line with social distancing, well, actually, there are no social distancing requirements anymore. Sorry, I'm reading from an old sheet. Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel meetings may be held using conferencing technology, and today's meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Any persons speaking at a local planning panel meeting are advised that their voice and personal information, including name and address, will be recorded as part of the meeting and made publicly available on Council's website via live stream and on-demand access, except any part of the meeting that is held in closed session. Accordingly, you must ensure that your address to the panel is respectful and that you use appropriate language and refrain from making any defamatory statements or discriminatory comments. Ku-ring-gai Council does not accept any liability for statements, comments, or actions taken by individuals during a meeting of the Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel. People connecting to this meeting by conferencing technology are reminded that under the Local Government Act 1993, the recording of meetings by a member of the public using any electronic recording device, including a mobile phone or video camera, is not permitted. Any person found recording without the permission of council may be expelled from the meeting. And some points to note: on-demand viewing of each Ku-ring-gai Local Planning Panel meeting will be available until the holding of the subsequent meeting, and recordings are copyright protected and cannot be reused or reproduced without the approval from council. There have been no apologies received for today's meeting. And I'll just now introduce the panel. So today, myself, Cara Crayson, I'll be the chair of today's panel. And we have two expert panel members, Michael Mason and John O'Grady, and the community panel member is Ian Arnott. Panel declarations. Now, we have received written declarations and there are none. I'll just ask the panel members, is there anything else that's come to light that you need to declare?
Not from me.
Not from Michael Mason.
Not from me, not from John O'Grady.
Thank you. And staff, are there any declarations of interest?
There are none.
Thank you. So I'll now start to call the speakers on the items. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. A sound will be heard at the conclusion of time, and speakers for each item will be heard in the following order. So objectors, any legal representatives, and then the applicant. Now we have 2 items on today's agenda for the public meeting. We have the first item is for 92 Carrington Road in Wahroonga, and the second item is 17 Lord Street in Rosewood. In relation to the first item, there are 3 registered speakers. I have, actually, Kerry, I'll just ask, are you aware that all the registered speakers are in the meeting at the moment?
The first 3 for 92 Carrington are, and I believe the other 4, 17 Lord, are also in the meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll just thank you. Confirm who that is. So for the first 3, there's Daniel Hawley, Matthew Powell, and Andrew Minto are the first 3 speakers registered. And for the second item, the registered speakers are Duncan Mann, Robin McInnes, Catherine Shepherd, and Sherry Lim. So we will start now with the first item. So the first speaker I'd like to call to address the panel is Danielle Hawley. So Danielle, when you're ready, you've got 3 minutes to address the panel.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, all right. I'll start. I strongly object to the proposed DA at 492 Carrington Road, Wahroonga. It is not sympathetic with the streetscape. There are 9 areas of non-compliance listed in the DCP table section A, so I'm just wondering, why should it be approved? The proposed dwelling's eaves encroach onto number 90 and 94 due to its extreme size and bulk. It puts my house in full shade from 1 p.m, Currently, we enjoy plentiful afternoon sun on the western boundary. This will make my house cold, damp, and mouldy on the western side, especially during winter. Privacy to our backyard and pool is severely compromised by the first floor balcony at the rear of the house and the non-compliant tennis court. There is no information on how high the privacy screens will be, and these screens will also block out more sunlight. There is no guarantee that the Juliet balconies will stay in place. The French doors provide access to a very large outdoor area that can be accessed from a living room inside the house. All the trees on the boundary that currently provide privacy are going to be removed. When the existing house was fully renovated in 2015, our backyard was flooded because the approved drainage plans did in fact not work. Water flows from number 92 down into my backyard, not towards Carrington Road, as the land slopes backwards, so I do not see how, via gravity, the water will drain to Carrington Road. Water cannot flow uphill. That is not how gravity works. The raised tennis court and the sheer size of the new house will undoubtedly lead to flooding in my backyard, where I also have retention pits. The construction of the basement is of major concern. Obviously, the council is worried enough to stipulate dilapidation reports for both 90 and 94 prior to excavation. Who pays to repair damage done to my house from all the drilling and vibration? This basement is unnecessary and grandiose. The house will present as 3 stories from Carrington Road, yet another area of non-compliance. The current home and established gardens are beautiful, and its destruction is environmentally unfriendly, extremely wasteful, and contributes to further tree loss in the Ku-ring-gai municipality. I strongly urge the council to reject this non-compliant proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. Ask the panel, does any panel members have any questions of Danielle Hawley?
Can I just clarify, Miss Hawley? Thank you for that. The address I noted was 10 Cleveland Street, but you have a property at 15. Sorry, which is the property that you're speaking on behalf of?
I own 94 Carrington Road.
Terrific, thank you. 94 Carrington Road, thank you.
Thank you.
And is your understanding that the hedging along the boundaries is to be removed? Is that what you understand the case to be? I heard you say that there were...
Yeah, the large latent greens are being removed.
Right.
From number 92.
Right. And that can from that you have concerns regarding the privacy impacts with the loss of those hedges. Is that correct?
Well, yes, and in combination with the raised tennis court and the first floor balcony that is proposed.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? No.
Quick question from me, Ms. Hawley, regarding the Juliet balcony. So you did mention that you described them as Juliet balcony, so I assume by that you understand that the roof area, the main roof area is no longer accessible. It's just those small balconies that are currently accessible. Is that correct?
Yes, they did put those in after both 90 and myself complained. However, there's absolutely nothing to stop them from removing that at a later date and then using that area for what it was originally intended.
Okay, thank you.
Michael?
Yes, the concern that you have about the raised tennis court, my understanding is that the reason for raising of the tennis court is so that they can get a reasonable flow of surface waters back to the front of the property where it can be disposed of. Are you also aware of that?
Yes, but I also strongly suspect that it's raised so that they can use all that fill from their excavation without having to cart it away somewhere else.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions from me.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. I don't have any questions. So we'll now move on to the second registered speaker, also speaking against the proposal, Matthew Powell. So Matthew, when you're ready.
Good afternoon to the panel. My name is Matthew Powell, Senior Town Planner at I Object, representing Dr. Charles Schofield, who is my client, the owner of number 90 Carrington Road, which is located adjacent to the west of the subject site. Firstly, in relation to privacy and the rear rooftop that's just been mentioned, we appreciate that Council has proposed conditions 3B and 88 to be added to any approval, stipulating that in no way, shape or form can the rear roof above the proposed veranda be used as a balcony or trafficable space, which we requested. So that's obviously something that's appreciated. However, Council's put up restrictions all the time. For example, no smoking, no alcohol areas, and there is always a proportion of the public who choose to do their own thing regardless. The informal use of outbuildings as secondary dwellings is one such example. In this case, the DA seeks the retention of the same structural elements of the originally proposed first floor balcony, with simply the renaming to a concrete rooftop, along with the repositioning of the balustrades to create Juliet balconies. The ability to informally convert the structure into an elevated entertainment area remains a major risk to the visual and acoustic privacy of number 90, and I dare say as well, number 94. There is a real risk at some point in the future that it will be converted into its originally intended purpose. To ensure this doesn't occur, we propose rendering the structure inaccessible to human traffic via converting it into a lightweight sloping roof structure, which would prevent easy access to those who wish to begin entertainment there post-CC. My second point is in relation to windows. We requested that a condition of consent be incorporated restricting bedroom 3's eastern windows, that's W20 and 21, to be completely fixed. Therefore, we generally support condition 18 to this effect, seeking a minimum sill height of 1.1 meters and fixed obscure glazing. However, the condition is a slight regression from previous amended plans, which proposed obscure glazing to the lower two panels to a height of 1.675 meters. Condition 18 only requires obscure glazing to a height of 1.6 meters. So we would like this condition to be changed back to the higher minimum height of 1.675 meters above finished floor level. We also support condition 18's stipulations around privacy screens. And finally, I'd like to thank the panel for the time to speak today, as well as the assessment officer, Belinda Neal's hard work throughout the various iterations of the DA plans in an effort to achieve a balanced development outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Panel members, does anyone have any questions?
None from me.
Thanks, John.
Nothing from me, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Michael?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, and I have none either. So thank you very much for your address. So we'll now move on to Andrew Minto, who's registered to speak on behalf of the applicant. So Andrew, you're ready.
Yeah, Chair, panel members, Andrew Minto. I'm a consultant town planner on behalf of the owner of the property. Panel, look, we are of the opinion that the issues relevant to this application, including those raised by the objectors, have been comprehensively and appropriately dealt with in the officer's report. There are a couple of items I just will briefly touch on that were raised during those presentations. First of all, in relation to the privacy treatment to those windows, 1.6 metres, that is the standard height that would be referenced by the Land and Environment Court in relation to privacy-related matters. In relation to the tennis court level, I confirm that the level of the tennis court is dictated by the need to drain stormwater by gravity to the street. It is as low as it practically can be on the site whilst achieving that outcome. And then thirdly, relates to the roof of the alfresco area. So I confirm that it is a non-trafficable area. There are conditions of consent that relate to that. I am sure that given that the neighbours are aware of these conditions and the like, that if somebody was to seek to use that space, the council would be informed of that non-compliance and council would undertake enforcement actions. The owner's intention is to use the dwelling as shown on the plans. There is one issue there, however. The plans currently on the eastern and western elevations do show privacy screens to that roof area. Those privacy screens are a hangover from the original proposal where it was a trafficable roof. Given that it is no longer trafficable, it is requested that the provision of those privacy screens be deleted and that condition 18 be amended accordingly. Other than that, we would ask that the panel endorse the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minto. So just to reconfirm that last point, you're seeking an amendment to the current set of plans to remove the 2 privacy screens on that upper level roof area because it was the leftover from...
Yeah, correct. So they were there. They were shown on the original plans. When it was deleted to a non-trafficable area, they were not deleted from the elevations, and they should have been. Okay,
thank you. I just had one other question before I open it up. That was to do with the matter that was raised by Ms. Hawley in terms of the hedges being removed along the side boundaries. Now, I noted that from the landscape plans, it indicated that all of the current screen planting, hedge planting was to be retained. Could you please explain what is proposed and if there is any proposal to remove those hedges? And if so, what plan is that shown on?
I am unaware of that. I am looking at the landscape plans that were submitted to council as part of the last request for information, and they certainly show existing hedge to remain as currently exists upon the site.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Other panel members, any questions of Mr. Minto? Michael, any questions?
No, thank you. Thank you,
Ian?
Mr. Minto.
Ian?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, for that. Could I just ask, there was the suggestion of replacing the concrete roof over the alfresco area with something more lightweight. I presume it was suggested there'd be a pitched roof, a sloping roof, skillion form, but it could be something like a pergola or something to that effect as well, I would think. Is there any reason why that wouldn't be acceptable, or is that a possibility, do you see?
I could not answer that question without liaising with the client. I mean, my understanding is, it's a substantial dwelling of solid construction, and that roof is consistent with the architecture of the building. If you look at the elevations, and particularly the side elevations, you can see that there is a banding and continuation of that banding at that roof level. It extends around, and it's just part of the architecture of the built form.
So presumably it would be possible to keep the support columns and the banding around, so that externally the visual impact would be the same, but you could have an infill of something more lightweight to ensure that it wasn't something that could be trafficable.
Look, there's always that possibility. However, my understanding is that they want that type of solid construction. There's appropriate conditions of consent in place. The conditions will be complied with. There's no justification for making that a lightweight roof, in our opinion.
Thanks, Andrew.
John, did you have any questions?
Well, I just suppose just another sort of comment on that. I mean, you say, Mr. Minto, there's no justification for retaining that substantial structure, but there's really, to be honest, there's no justification for changing it as well, is there? If you can retain the line of the building in its elevation, then it would there would be no real need to keep that structural roof in its current form. It could be converted to lightweight. Would you agree with that?
Oh, there's always a possibility, but this is the built form that the clients have asked for approval for. This is what they want. The concerns raised by the adjoining property owners can be appropriately dealt with by way of condition. On that basis, there's simply no nexus for that modification.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your comment. Nothing further from me.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I've just, I might have one for the question. I'm just bringing up the landscape plan again. I just can't see, Andrew, on the landscape plan, a key to the planting schedule. You might have an attachment to that. So the hedging, is the Leighton Green hedges that were discussed, is that the hedging that is shown on the landscape plan along the boundaries along the site boundaries adjacent to the tennis court? And then it looks like on the eastern boundary, in the area adjoining the alfresco area and the grassed area, there's another type of plant there, but I can't see what it is. So I guess I just wanted to understand the Leighton Green hedges in particular. Is that the existing hedge shown on the landscape plan around the boundary of the site adjoining the tennis court?
Yeah, so if you look at sheet 1 of the landscape plan, where it's got an existing tree schedule, it identifies T9 as being the Leighton Green hedge. Okay, so I can see there. Okay, I can see where the confusion is coming from. So the table on the front sheet is showing tree 8 and tree 9 being the Leighton Green hedge as being removed, and then the actual plan view is showing it as being retained.
Yes.
My understanding, I think that may have been a change which has occurred along the way.
So 8, did you say it's 8 and 9? That's
yeah. So in that table,
on the plan view, 8 and 9 is 9 is okay on the eastern edge, and 8 okay. So T9 is shown
on the eastern
boundary adjoining the tennis court, and then T8, that looks like it's a new hedge adjoining the veranda and the grassed area. So is that do you know, is that a Leighton Green hedge at the moment that's being removed as per that key?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure exactly how that planting is currently existing on the site. T8, yeah, certainly T8 and T9 are identified at those locations and are identified in the table as being the Leighton Greens.
I can answer that question.
Sorry,
Danielle, number 94.
Yeah, we normally just take questions, but I'm happy for you to provide some clarification here.
Okay, so on the eastern boundary, there are some very large Leighton Green trees. I would not refer to it as a hedge at all. In fact, there's no hedging along that eastern boundary. It is all mature, substantial trees that have been there for many, many years. So as far as I can see, they're proposing to remove virtually all of those trees to accommodate the tennis court.
Right, okay. Andrew, as the representative from the applicant, do you have anything that you can clarify here? Otherwise, we'll get some clarification from council.
Well, I think if you look at those landscape plans, you can see where T8 and T9 are shown. So they are referencing, I guess, the Leighton green tree species that are in a clump rather than in a conventional maintained hedge format. And you can see the outline of the SRs, the structural root zone and the tree protection zone for those. But in terms of the boundary planting adjacent to the tennis court, the plans do identify that existing hedge planting is to remain. So yeah, that's my understanding of the plan.
Okay. Thank you for that. So I guess in relation to that, any inconsistency that may be shown there, should this application be approved, you'd have no objection to condition to that effect, ensuring that it's to be retained as shown on the plan.
In terms of the hedge planting adjacent,
yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else, any other panel members have any further questions of Mr. Minto?
Not me.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, panel.
Thank you. So that brings to a close the registered speakers on the first item. So we'll now move to the second item, 17 Lord Street, Roseville. So we'll start, we have one speaker against, Duncan Mann, and then 3 speakers representing the applicant. So we'll start with Mr. Mann. So Duncan, when you're ready.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And if you'll forgive me, I'm going to share my screen as well, which I hope you can all see. Our family resides at 15 Lord Street, the property immediately west of the property in question. Our objection is based on the following breaches and issues in the DA. Point number 1, breach of provision 19C 1.1 and 1.3 of the DCP, which states that alterations must respect the HCA with similar massing, style, form, proportions and arrangements to other contributory properties. To extend 13 to 20 metres beyond all neighbouring properties at the rear and at 2 stories high cannot achieve this. The CAD representation of the new property's rear extension on my screen highlights this, we believe. An irreversible loss of green corridor with all neighbouring properties exhibiting 25 plus metre rear setbacks will result. This 2-storey extension will now be the dominant form seen from all neighbouring yards and rear living spaces. It also goes against the urban forest strategy to increase tree canopy in the area. Breach of provision 19F.1 of the DCP, which says that new builds within 100 metres of a heritage item should not dominate, detract from or compete with heritage items in the vicinity. In contrast, the property's rear extension and bulk has a high visual impact to 4 individually listed heritage items surrounding it. Point number 4, breach of provision 19F 1.2, which states that if neighbouring a heritage item, which it does, extension should have regard to the siting and orientation of the heritage items. The rear extension and lack of rear setback shown are not consistent with any of the neighbouring properties, which includes 4 specific heritage items. Number 5, a loss of privacy for all surrounding properties where the usual 50 plus metres of space between house rears is fundamentally reduced. For our property specifically, the new building extends circa 12 metres behind ours, and as such will have an orientation that looks directly into all of our major indoor and outdoor living areas, a situation not seen in any neighbouring properties because none have such inconsistent rear setbacks. This is not a problem that can be simply addressed with glazing, which is also inconsistent with neighbouring heritage materials. Point number 6. A loss of solar access to our north-facing windows and primary rear dwelling spaces of 60% and 38% at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. midwinter, which is inconsistent with LEP 4C.5 re-solar access, and the objective not to reduce access by more than 20% in south-facing properties such as ours, which have existing shadows. I note this impact is inconsistent from a numbers perspective with the DA assessment by council, but was highlighted in the independent expert assessment that we did submit. And you can see this drawing, which does appear to have been overlooked in DA's assessment, and one that we do believe is important in a land and environment court situation. We note the small concession that was made to bring the second floor roof back by 2.5 metres. This, however, solves none of the issues raised and ignores the height of the ground floor wall, which extends well above the ground floor roof height. We note that council stated this change was so insignificant it did not warrant a notification to neighbours, and we did not address the changes or the issues outlined. A range of options to bring the building closer to the original house, including better use of the patio in the middle of the block or the corridor between the new proposed build and the old house, could have reached a far better outcome and materially reduced our concerns. In conclusion, we believe the bulk and lack of rear setback of the new build are fundamentally inconsistent with the core objectives of the DCP for the heritage area and are inconsistent with all neighbouring properties in the HCA, including 4 heritage items. We believe approval of the DA would risk setting a very dangerous precedent at this sensitive time. Specifically, we would suggest that an approval would ratify that even in HCAs and for properties specifically adjacent to multiple heritage items, only technical setbacks matter, and the overall objectives of the HCA and heritage protections regarding heritage consistency and green space protection do not. Thank you so much for giving us the time.
Thank you. Mr. Mann, any questions of the panel? Perhaps, Ian, any questions from you to start with?
Not at this stage, thanks, Carmen. Thank you, Mr. Mann.
Thank you.
Michael?
No, thank you, Mr. Mann.
And John?
Just one brief question, Mr. Mann. So that photo montage that you've shown there, so you've said that that's been issued to council as part of your submission. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It was provided by this independent company, CAD Draft Proprietary Limited, along with solar diagrams that differed in their percentage impact to the ones provided with the DA, but the DA assessment referred only to the outcomes and diagrams that were provided with the DA and did not refer back to our proposal.
I see. And another question. So how do you know that has that been prepared consistent with the Land Environment Court requirements for photomontages? Do you know that?
Yes,
has
sir.
it been surveyed?
Yeah, no, we also, I believe so. We hired an independent town planner who also provided a submission alongside this report and believe that this was done independent, referred by the town planner so that it could be put up. And I believe those parties worked before in Land and Environment Court submission. So to the best of my knowledge, sir, I believe it does.
Okay, so the photo location was surveyed and then the model was overlaid onto the photograph accurately, as far as you understand.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. Mr. Mann, well, I just had a couple of questions in relation to that montage. The height of the fence, the side fence, what do you know what that is? Is it a 1.8?
Yeah, that is a 1.8 metre fence.
Okay, so is there a drop from your grassed area that's shown in those images? Do you drop down slightly?
It's more like a 60 centimetre drop. There's a retaining wall behind. I'll keep dropping it, bring it back up. But you can see the little buxus hedge here. Between the buxus hedge and the fence is about a kind of 1.5 metre space. That is lower because of the retaining wall behind that little buxus hedge.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Cara, could I just ask Mr. Mann, are you able to bring up the shadow diagrams that you're...
Yeah, they're in this document. So let me bring them up here. So this is... please tell me if you can't see this. I think you can, but this is the impact.
Oh, no, sorry, we're still seeing the view diagram. I think you have to stop sharing that one first.
Oh, I can see the shadows.
Oh, can you?
I could.
Oh, okay.
Please tell me if you can see this. So this is at 9 a.m. in midwinter. You can see the grey being the existing shadow diagram and the red being the new, and the calculations in blue here regarding the reduction. That's at 9 a.m. If you're comfortable, I'm moving to 10 a.m. where again you can see the difference between the grey and the red there. and the calculation of the 38% that I referenced. And this is 11 a.m., which is a 15.5% reduction. And I believe there is a diagram that I will move to, which shows here in the top left corner, it was suggested in the DA that there is no impact on our north-facing windows, which is contrary to the diagrams here in the top two.
Oh, you've got elevation. Okay.
And so that is showing by 11 a.m. The windows are free of any shadow, but at 9 a.m. fully covered, and at 10 a.m. Half the rear window.
That is correct. And because we're south facing, in the afternoon, those windows, you can see, stop getting their light. So they are, because of the existing shadows, we have an inability to get 4 hours of light to those rooms in the afternoon. And so we rely on that light in the morning. And so that we're not getting the 4 hours to those rooms.
Excuse me, Mr. Duncan,
Yes.
what would you estimate the hours of sunlight that the windows do collect?
Yeah, I think great question. So I think by 11 a.m. here, 11, 12, and 1 o'clock, half of that's getting it. So we're getting kind of 2.5 hours thereabouts based on these diagrams, and our experience is consistent.
Can you just slide back up there?
Of course.
Thank you. Well, at 10 and at 9, at least one of the windows is getting some, isn't it?
At 10, yeah. So at 10 a.m., the rear one is getting, well, 9 a.m. it gets a little bit. At 10 a.m. it gets kind of 75%. At 11 a.m. it's getting 50%, and at 12 it's starting to get, that one's there, is getting covered, but this one's then opening up versus 1 p.m. where then, because of the shadows, you can see it's kind of almost non-existent on both.
And can I just ask a quick question about it? So what are the rooms that those windows access, Mr. Mann?
That's
in your house?
That's our family living area, as is noted.
Okay, so and it's a single room, is it? It's one single room.
It's a single room.
Windows. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And you say you've provided these to council?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. So we'll now move on to the 3 speakers representing the applicant. So we have Robin McInnes, who's the architect, Catherine Shepherd, and Sherry Lim. So Robin, would you like to go first, or have you, of the 3 of you, got an order that you prefer to speak in?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You can see me as well. I'm not sure. I'm a little bit in the dark here. I'm in London, and I have to do it. Okay. Look. So I'm the architect of the scheme. We developed the design, which not only complied with all the planning controls, but it accommodated the comments attached to a previous DA that was refused. The final design would not be visible from the street. And we also had extensive discussions with council regarding the proposal and made changes before the DA submission to address these comments. The final proposal complied with all the planning controls, with roof heights lower than the maximum and a significant larger setback from the heritage item at number 19. Following our submission, further discussions were held with council to amend the heights and main extension, the main house extension, and the garage facing number 19. The west elevation facing the rear garden of number 15 was further reduced in height and bulk, which actually reduced the gross floor area significantly, and trees were added, mature height trees were added to the boundary to reduce the impact from number 15. We therefore support the proposal and request that council or planning panel accept the recommendation of the council and approve the application. I might note that the actual montage that was shown does not show the changes to the setback at the rear, and also the shadow, unless I'm looking in a different direction, shows the window that's overshadowed is from the east, is on the east elevation. And if you look at our shadow diagrams, that shadow moves away quite quickly, and our building has no significant impact on number 15. And it's mainly that the house at number 15 itself, which does most of the overshadowing, because it's facing, the garden faces south. So I'll just say again that we hope that panel can take the council recommendation and approve the application.
Thank you for your address. We might just hold questions of the applicant speakers till we've heard from each of you. And then we can ask questions of the relevant individuals. So perhaps Catherine Shepherd, if you'd like to address the panel next.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address the panel today. I appear for the owners of number 17 Lord Street in support of this development proposal, which represents a carefully considered and respectful development of the land. It should be noted that the photo montage we've been discussing with the earlier speaker and the shadow diagrams we reviewed do not reflect the current plans before council. They reflect the plans that were submitted with the original DA. Council has robustly commented on the shadow impacts in their assessment of the application. This DA ought to be approved for the reasons set out in Council's comprehensive assessment report, which details why all departments within Council, including planning, heritage, landscape and engineering, support the proposed development. Following Council's refusal of the previous DA, the applicant engaged a new architect and consultant team who have been working collaboratively to review the reasons for refusal and develop a new design. The new design approach has focused on robustly addressing the reasons for refusal and following the design guidance provided by Council's Heritage Department. The applicant's architectural, heritage and town planning advisors met with and liaised extensively with Council's planning and heritage staff to obtain feedback on the new design approach prior to submitting the second DA. Prior to DA lodgement and throughout the DA process, the proposed plans have been amended on multiple occasions to respond to all feedback received from Council's planning, heritage, landscape and engineering departments. The amendments also address the concerns raised by neighbouring landowners. The proposed rear addition has been carefully sited on the block and is generously separated from the adjoining heritage listed item. The owner of number 19 Lord Street has advised Council and my clients that she no longer has any concerns with the proposed development. It is noted that the height of the rear addition will be between 2.8 and 1.6 metres below Council's maximum permissible building height. The proposal complies with Council's 12-metre rear building setback at ground floor level and exceeds the minimum setback at first floor level in the order of 2.3 metres. The alignment of the proposed western elevation is articulated so as to significantly exceed Council's minimum side boundary setback at various points and minimise adverse impacts. In addition, landscaping has been proposed along this boundary. The concerns raised by Council and neighbouring landowners have been thoroughly considered and addressed by the applicant. For all these reasons, I urge the panel to approve the DA.
Thank you for your address, Ms. Shepherd. And Sherry Lim, you're the last registered speaker on this item.
Thank you. Thank you for the panel's time today to review our application. My name is Sherry Lim, and today I will be speaking on behalf of my family at 17 Lord Street. We were quite surprised that a DA like ours has ended up all the way at the panel, considering the fact that all of our adjacent neighbours have had similar DAs approved in the last few years. We were quite blindsided by the number of submissions that were made against, with more than half of these coming from outside of the Roseville area. Based on the submissions raised, we've already made further amendments to our plans, which Robin and Catherine have spoken to, and we believe that they answer the concerns raised. As a result of these amendments that we've made, 19 Lord has already retracted their submission against. Majority of the concerns that have been raised by the submissions seem to stem from the form that has been adopted in this DA. And just to provide a little bit of context for the panel, we previously submitted a DA where council provided very specific feedback to us on the building form required as per the 2021 DCP. And though this form was not our first preference, we did compromise, and this was used as the basis of our current DA. Throughout the process of our second DA, we've collaborated very closely with council officers to essentially co-design the plans, and we ensured that all matters were resolved to council's satisfaction. We've also tried our best to be transparent in communicating our plans with our neighbours. We've recently welcomed our first child, and unfortunately, the house in its current condition is just not livable for our young family. And we really hope to receive the panel's support today so that we are able to settle our family down. We hope that the precedent set today shows other families that they can achieve a positive DA outcome by doing the right thing and collaborating with council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lim. I'll just open it up then to panel members for questions of the three speakers representing the applicant. Michael, would you like to go first?
Thank you, Chair. If I could speak to the architect, that Duncan.
Oh, no, Robin.
Robin.
McInnes.
I beg your pardon, Robin. Robin, my understanding of heritage buildings, and being an architect, I assume you have dealt with numerous heritage buildings. The major focus, in my understanding, is the presentation to the street and the streetscape of a heritage item. Is that also your view?
Yes, of course. And I think, as I said in my submission, the extension at the rear was developed to not be visible from the street. Although it is two-story, it is not visible from the street. And
you seem to indicate that one of the elevations was incorrect, or east representing west. Is that correct?
In the shadow,
yes,
number 19 shadow, it was excuse me, depicting an eastern facing window, not a northern facing window.
Okay. Thank you. No more questions from me.
Thank you. John, do you have some questions?
It's a slightly hypothetical question, I guess, also for the architect, but as much, I guess, for all three of the speakers. Regarding, I could get your comment on the reasoning for separating the two buildings and the potential lesser impact of pushing the new building, of connecting the new building to the existing structure. Sorry, it's not a new building, but the addition, connecting that to the existing structure. I was wondering if you could give me some comments on the justification for that separation.
Well, this was actually developed with Council's heritage officer, who had very strong reason to require a clear separation of the old to the new. And this has been expressed with a flat roof extension, or it can be easily read. The new extension can be easily read as a separate entity to the the existing house, and there is very little change to the existing house. There were some ancillary additions at the rear that are removed, but otherwise the house remains intact. And this was very much in the discussion with Council's heritage architect and our own heritage architect to ensure this clear separation. And that's how our design was developed. It also allowed a very, very large setback from the heritage item at number 19. So all these items were developed in conjunction with council's heritage.
All right, thank you. Thanks very much.
Ian?
Yeah, thanks, Robin. Can I just ask, Robin, have you the shadow diagrams that Mr. Mann presented, have you seen those?
Yes, they were part of the original submission. And,
right. And
frankly, you can see that the impact of our building is very small compared to the area that, well, there is very small impact on one of their windows to the east from our development. And if you look at our shadow diagrams in plan, it moves away very quickly towards our property, and there's very little impact on their property from 10, 11, 12. And by 12, there's no impact at all. It's actually going parallel to their house.
Yeah. Whilst I appreciate that you pointed out that they are east-facing windows, do you have any dispute with the accuracy of their shadow diagrams, or do you accept that they are?
No.
Okay.
Ian, Catherine Shepherd here, the town planner.
Hi,
I just wanted to further clarify for you. Council did request the submission of amended shadow plans that reflected the proposed development before you, and they were provided to council, so they would be in the body of your material.
No, I definitely have the shadow diagrams that have been submitted based on the amended proposal. What I don't have is elevational shadow diagrams with those, and I noticed that Mr. Mann did have some elevational shadow diagrams.
Yes, so the elevational shadow diagrams that were shared with the screen reflect the original proposed plans. They don't reflect the amended plans. And council's assessment report provides quite a robust justification or assessment of the shadowing, and notes that the building itself is not being overshadowed by the proposed development.
And so you would agree? No, sorry. So the difference between the shadow diagrams, the elevational shadow diagrams that were provided, with them being based on the original plans, the changes to the plans were a lowering of height am I correct in saying of both the ridge and the eaves height, or just the ridge height?
I'll let Robin answer that.
Well, actually, the whole of the building was lowered by 300, and the roof was also lowered to respond to number 19. Number 15's submission.
So
and the other thing is that window is actually on the furthest point from our proposal, and that's why it shows on those shadow diagrams, the elevation ones, it quickly dissipates. And certainly I think there was enough light in that original submission to satisfy the Land and Environment Court about the impact of solar access. So yes,
Robin, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So it's a very a minor impact at the June solstice. So as Catherine said, by lowering our building by 300, as well as the roof. It wasn't just the eaves, it was the roof, and also the bulk at the rear, significantly reduced any impact on that neighbour. And if they were done again, they would probably show that window had some solar wouldn't have any solar access problem. Sorry, I must say it's 3 o'clock in the morning here. So,
Yeah.
Oh, where are you?
I'm probably not as articulate as I should be.
He's in London, he said.
Right. Well, you're doing well.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you.
Robin, I just do want to clarify this issue if I can. Sorry, Cara, if that's okay.
That's okay.
So my understanding from what you've said is my reading of the shadow diagrams are that they're falling from the eaves rather than the ridge. It's a little bit more complicated, because if you look at you really need to look at the plan of our shadow path. I am looking at that.
There's a lot of the existing house that overshadows the rear garden of number 15. And if you look at the path, it actually tracks back to our property fairly quickly. So certainly at 9 o'clock, yes, at the east, it's shadowing their garden. But as it moves, I think we showed how it moved from 11 till 12.
I understand that. But what I'm trying to clarify, Robin, is in all of those circumstances, 9, 10, 11, I'm looking at, it seems to me that they're all falling from the eaves, the way the shadow diagrams are drawn.
Yeah, but then the house at number 15 actually overshadows their own garden.
I'm not questioning that. I'm just questioning if you agree that the shadow's falling from the eaves, not the
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then I just also want to clarify that the difference will be then that the eaves have been lowered by 300 from the ones that Mr. Mann showed us. And also the setback has been increased at the upper level.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'll move on to my questions. The first, just on that point, actually, no, I'll come back to that. In terms of the ground floor plan, I just wanted to better understand what's proposed for the front section of house to be retained. We don't have that part of the house, including the front entry on the ground floor plan. I'm not sure if that was intentional in your submission or whether there was an IT problem that cut that out. But we can see on the ground floor plan highlighted as a change the walk-in robe and an ensuite, and then adjoining that a study, opposite, so I guess where the walk-in robe is, a sitting room. But it looks like on other plans that there are 2 further rooms at the front of the house, and presumably a front door as well. Are you able to, I guess, share with us further details of any works that are proposed there, what the uses of any rooms that are to be retained are, and why that information isn't included on the ground floor plan?
Well, there aren't any changes at the front. I just have to look at my own plan.
Yeah, okay.
What we did. So there were some changes, yes, of an ensuite within the structure, but there was no changes to the wall locations. So it was just showing the use of those spaces. and I can't recall actually where that was shown. I thought we had shown that somewhere in the original, but there's very little change to the front of the front section, the original house.
So is there any change proposed beyond? I don't know if you can see what we can see. I'm not sure if it's an this was an IT issue in the upload of the plans or not, but all that we can see is that the plans basically start from the walk-in robe. It doesn't show how the walk-in robe
I think
interacts with the bedroom at all. And
Yeah.
then we can see most of the sitting room, but not the wall, the far wall of the sitting room. We see nothing beyond that. So I'm not sure whether you've got another plan that showed it, but I want
I can't recall where that was shown. I thought we had shown that in a plan in the original submission, but all I can say now is that there were some changes to the internal layout, although there's one that shows on the ground floor plan that there's a smaller ensuite, but and there's a division of an existing room into an ensuite and a walk-in wardrobe. There is no change. I don't know why it was cut off like that, but yes, there's no change. There's no change to the elevation in the existing house.
Right, so the front door remains the same.
The front door exactly the same, yes.
And is one of those front rooms presumably next to the walk-in robe and the ensuite? That presumably is a bedroom.
Yes.
And what's the room adjoining the sitting room? What's the use of that?
Adjoining the sitting room.
At the front of it.
At the front of the house, it's actually a large room that joins to that room. That's the original layout. I think maybe it was better. We did submit the existing drawings, and that would show what was happening in that section. But it is a large room that joins to that room that's shown. So,
sorry.
In the original, when it was built like that, it was built as two rooms. Joined. They were joined rooms.
I guess maybe Sherry can confirm this. I'm wanting to know, because there's a cutoff on the plans. Are there any proposed changes at all to that section of the house? And also, what's the proposed use of those rooms at the front?
There's still reception rooms at the front, and there's some bedrooms down the side. And as it comes through onto our new plan, there's some bedrooms and study, but they are all within the existing envelope. There were no changes to the window at all, windows, so that's why it wasn't shown in great details.
Thank you, Robin.
Sorry, I'll just jump in. So further to the walk-in wardrobe, no further changes were made to the existing house. You're correct in that the room at the front is currently a bedroom, and we will be retaining that use. Okay. Next to it is a sitting room. Just to provide some background, our family is multi-generational, and we do have quite an old grandma who does need access to a ground floor bedroom with a bathroom attached to it. So she's 90 years old this year, and we're hoping to settle her down with us.
Okay. So in terms of, and sorry, I'm just asking this question because we don't have for us, I mean, they might have been submitted, but we just don't have them in our package, the existing floor plans. So that room at the front of the house, that's not a bedroom, there's no kitchen facility or anything in that, is there?
No, it's a original lounge room as well as an adjoining original dining room, which will both be retained.
Okay, so the proposal is only for one kitchen. So this is, even though it's multi-generational, it's for one single family dwelling home.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just come in there? If you look at the site plan, it does actually show the rooms in dotted in that section.
Yes.
So on the site plan, which shows generally the roof, you can see how those the rooms that are not shown on the ground floor plan fit. Can you see that?
Yes, and that's what we did notice, that we could see that there were rooms there, but we didn't know, because the detail was not on the plan, whether there were any changes, and we also didn't know whether there was a kitchen in there or what the use might have been. So that's what we were just clarifying.
All right.
Okay. And then I had one further question in relation to the plans with the new section at the rear. The kitchen, let me just grab the relevant one. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through. The splashback window. Now, I'm looking at the elevation west plan, and there's a splashback window. Now that on this plan is shows the fence line, and it shows a splashback window sitting below the fence line, and it also showed I guess the new ground floor being quite a bit lower than the fence line there. Now, I don't have the survey information of the adjoining lot. We don't have that in our package, but we could see from those photographs, and we know they were the original submitted scheme, that you could see from the rear yard of the adjoining property that that's part of that splashback window in the montage that had been prepared. So I just wanted to better understand that relationship, and I guess the relationship on whether there will be any overlooking from the kitchen through that window to the rear yard of the adjoining property.
No, it's on section. Oh, sorry. On section 2, section 2. That goes from shows from 15 through to 19. You see, it's actually sloped. The ground slopes up from the kitchen, and the fence is 1800 on that higher point. Can you see that?
I'm
section
just looking for that
2.
plan. I'm just section 2, section 3, section 2. Yes, I've got that now.
Yeah, so you look to the left, you can see that is the section through the window of the kitchen. Can you see that ground sloping up to the boundary?
Yes.
So that is from that point in the boundary is 1800 to the fence, and in a kitchen, the bottom of the window is 900, and then the window is 700. So if you actually put a line between the top of the fence and the window, it would be well above the window.
So the fence, did you look at the relationship? Does the bottom of the fence start at that raised ground level on number 17, or does the bottom of the fence start
number
at
15? Number 15.
Yeah, is number 15's ground level where the fence commences from? Is that at a lower level than number 17, or are they at the same? Are they in the same ground level plane?
No, the land is actually sloping up towards 15. The whole of that site, if you go between 15 and 19, it's a general slope from 15 to 19, and that's where, if you look at that section, that slope is that slope starts at the boundary and it goes down to our property, and that's why. I could tell you if you needed it to tell you what the height from the top of the window to the top of the fence is, but the fence is higher than the splashback window. That's all I can say. It's quite clear that it's 1800 above the ground at that point, and the kitchen is lower than that point, and it's 900 to the bottom of the window and 700 to the top, so that's 1600. So that is lower than a fence, and the fence is higher.
Okay, great. No, thank you for that. Okay.
Tara, I just wanted to jump in, sorry, and just point out also that the amended landscape plan does now include substantial screen planting between the boundary and the window that we've been discussing, as shown on that section that we've just been looking at.
And
Because that setback is significantly greater than the requirement of the DCP.
okay. All right. No, thank you.
Significantly.
Thank you for that information. So panel, any further questions of the applicant? This team? No. Mr. Mann, I just have one further question of you. We know in the report, as you've heard today, that the plans before us and upon which the assessment is based was an updated set, which the report indicates was the 7th of March 2024. And the report indicates that under Council's notification policy, where the impacts are considered by Council to be less, they don't re-notify. Notwithstanding that it wasn't re-notified formally, were you aware before this meeting that or at the time they were lodged, that amended plans had been lodged? Have you had the benefit of looking at those?
Yeah, we spoke to council and asked council whether it was worth us getting new diagrams done again that reflected the updated plans. Council's response was that the change was insignificant and did not require it, and that the diagrams we'd previously lodged will be sufficient for this discussion.
No problem. No, I just wanted to check that. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Tara, can I just ask one further question, sorry, before we wrap up?
Yes.
It's just an admin question. I just want to make sure that the panel has received some information from Council's officers in regards to a plan reference error in condition 1.
Sorry, who's speaking then? We do have an updated memo from Council. So,
Madam Chair, we don't, the matter that Catherine is speaking about, we are aware of, and we will advise you of that.
oh, okay, all right. We'll be advised of that in the post meeting briefing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings to a close all our speakers for today. So, which means it brings to a close the public meeting aspect of today. So I'd like to thank you for all your comments. I'll now close the meeting. The panel will retire, deliberate on each of those items, and the decisions will be posted on Council's website ordinarily within 48 hours of the close of this deliberation meeting. So thank you, everyone. I'll just ask the panel to leave this meeting and rejoin the meeting in the determination link. And I hope everybody has a nice day. Thank you.